We borrowed as much as we could, bought as much property as we could, and then quit.
What were you then earning once you quit those jobs?
Nothing. It was all gone. Like we.
Thanh and Tabitha are the founders of T&T Property Consulting, a husband and wife team with over a decade of hands-on experience in property investing.
Coming from trade backgrounds, they've transformed their passion for real estate into a purpose-driven business focused on community development and win-win project outcomes.
You don't have to be the one on title. You don't have to purchase the property. They own it, we come in, do the work, and then split the profit afterwards.
Do you have any kind of tips in those early days or mistakes that you wouldn't do again?
Our main thing was trying to keep everything.
What are some rules? What are some guidelines? What are some boundaries? Do you guys have anything like that to continue your working relationship and your marriage?
One that I've recently learned from the business guide is
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Unemployable Podcast. Today, we've got something a little bit different for you guys. We've got a husband and wife team here with us today. Not only are they husband and wife, but they're also business partners in a development company, and they've driven here. Or did you guys fly or drive?
drove here.
Drove here all the way from Bundaberg, Queensland, to join us here on the Gold Coast. And their name is Thanh Tran and Tabitha Loveday. How are you guys?
Good, thank you.
We're fabulous, thank you.
Yeah, good. Thanks for coming on. Carson has told me so much about you guys, just in regards to the lead up to the podcast, because I was like, okay, who are these people? Why are they on the podcast? How, what have they done and why people should listen? So I just firstly want to thank you so much for the drive up here. How long does it take to get to the Gold Coast from Bundaberg?
Probably about like 7 hours or something like that, so
Yeah.
it's a bit of a hike. But
Yeah, awesome. Carson, thank you very much.
No dramas. No,
Always.
looking forward to it.
You're always bringing on great clients that we can interview. And this one's a little bit interesting because back in 2021, Thanh and Tabitha were at an event. And at that event, Carson was on stage and he was receiving an award. And that is what inspired them to go down the property development track. And off camera, they mentioned that to Carson, and Carson didn't even know that. So I think he's a bit chuffed, to be honest with you, on that. And since then, incredibly, they've done over 20 rental flips, 2 subdivisions, and 2 new builds. So I just want to take my hat off to you guys and say congratulations and well done, because 20 rental flips and the subdivisions and builds within a 4 to 5 year period is pretty extraordinary.
Thank you.
thank you.
And you guys are still married. Like that is interesting. Very interesting. So a little bit of background with Thanh and Tabitha. They actually met when they were 14 years old. They did the same trade. They're fitter and turners as a trade, and then now they're full time into property development over the last 4 years. As Tabitha said off camera, we just said we're going to go full time and we're going to send it. And sending it is exactly what they are doing, because they're absolutely crushing it in what they're doing. So let's rewind a little bit and go back to, I think, how you got involved in the property space, right? Why you guys enjoyed the real estate. Where did it come from? And I really like to dig deep into these rental flips, because rental flips in my mind is an easy path to get into the real estate investing space, right? The first path is buy a property, rent it out, hold, and then the next thing you do is basically do a renovation, right? Usually it's a renovation for yourself to live in, but you guys are actually doing renovations and flipping them as a business and as a profit center. So let's bring it back to I guess, where did that come from? And let's go right back to that first project and unpack what that looked like, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, so if we bring it back to when we first met, it was obviously you said we met at a very young age, and we actually met at table tennis. So we've known each other from 14 and 17 years old. From there, with our family stuff, we always got along. Yeah.
So where it all started, I guess we purchased our first house together. I was 18 and Tan was 21. We weren't sure what we were doing at that point. We knew we liked it, and no one we knew had investment properties. So we ended up buying a couple, and we didn't know what we're doing at all. Making all the mistakes along the way, and we got to a point where we thought we were just going to buy heaps of investment properties and retire. That was the plan.
But obviously that doesn't happen because there is always that ceiling that you are gonna hit, and it's not only that is I guess with some of the markets that we bought in, it was very stagnant for a very long time. So it was at a stage there was like 10 years where we got zero growth, and we're like, well, we can't keep on doing this because otherwise we'd be going backwards. And we'd just be working to just feed these houses pretty much.
So I guess our first taste of renos was really some of those investment properties, upgrading things in there, and then increasing the rent and that along the way. But it wasn't really until 2020 where we started getting educated. We learnt about, creating a chunk of money where you actually sell the property. We'd never thought of selling them. We were just going to hold them forever, and that was the plan. So
Yeah, so our first one was actually in Mackay, and it was like a Queenslander cottage sort of thing, 2 stories, and it just needed a little bit of love, and it was our first one, so we sort of went in it blind. We didn't know, so it was pretty cool. During that first one, it's in like a medium density area, so there's units and stuff close by. But after the bathroom and stuff got taken out, we actually showered in the backyard and like swagging it downstairs, so it was a fun adventure. That first one was pretty cool. Now to actually think back about it.
Yeah, and these are the things like I always ask people that want to get into property or business, and I feel like I repeat myself all the time, and I'm like, what are you willing to go without to get ahead, right? And these are the stories that people can listen to, and this is the reality, right? To get ahead and do these things, right? Being 18 and 21 years old, right? On wages, buying a property to go and get ahead and do these rental flips, you got to do what you got to do. And a lot of people won't do that, right? They won't shower outside and sleep at a swag downstairs while they're renovating a property. But I look at you guys and you sit here so humbly, with this initial story and just going, yeah, kind of that's where we started. And since then we've done all of this, and now you're doing it full time. And this is most people's dream, right? That listen to this podcast, especially around the property space, is to actually quit their job and do something like this full time. So I just want to, again, say well done on doing that. Now, back to that Mackay property. So you guys were living in Bundaberg at the time, and then did you move to Mackay to live in this property, to reno it as you were living in it?
So I guess a bit of the story that we haven't touched on, we got into mining. Now, a lot of people say, oh yeah, that's awesome. That's how you made it happen. It took 2 years. Tan put in applications, 2 years for him to get a call back because there's no one we knew that was in mining. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of jobs out there. So 2 years later, a labour hire company called Tan and said, hey, would you like to come out for some casual work? So I was not finished my apprenticeship at that stage, and we decided to both quit our job and just go out and give it a go. I didn't have a job yet, so Tan had just started doing a couple of days here and there. So we actually stayed nearby in our rooftop tent while I was on the phone during the day, calling up, trying to get work while we're out there. And that's how we got started out there.
Wow. So basically Tan got a job mining, fly in, fly out, I'm assuming.
No, drive in, drive out.
Drive in.
Drive in, drive out.
Yeah.
Wow. And you guys were where were you living?
Nowhere.
So you just had
We rented our house,
you rented the house back in
Bundy.
Bundy,
Yeah.
and then you were living in a tent on top of your van, or
Yeah, we have an old 80 series Land Cruiser.
wow, that's unbelievable. Like they just talk about it like it's so natural, you know. Like it's just yeah, and it amazes me because we all have a story, and that's the thing, right? Like I didn't believe in my story, you know, at one point, but everyone has a story, and it'll inspire so many different types of people. So you're in Mackay. How did you fund the Mackay property?
At that stage, I guess we did have good income, so we just bought it as a normal PPR, that one.
Yep.
And we stayed there for over 12 months and slowly done it up. But we were doing it on our days off, so obviously it was all casual work too. So one day we could be 6 hours one way, the next 2-3 days we could be another few hours the other way. So we just sort of made it whatever we could to spare time, go back there and do and work on the house and do whatever we had to.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we just kept on working.
How much did you pay for that property in Mackay?
201,000.
201,000. And what was it?
It was just a Queenslander.
Queenslander, 3-bed, 2-bath.
Yeah.
3-bed, one bath. Yeah.
Yep. And what year was this?
2020.
2020. So just the beginning of COVID. Yeah. So you bought a 201,000. Was it a 20% deposit that you put down, or a 10% deposit with mortgage insurance?
20% deposit for that one.
Yeah, 20% deposit. So put down about 40 grand. Okay. And then what was next in that property? Like what did you do to that property?
So we did the kitchen, bathroom, and internal paint, floors. At that stage, we did as much of it as we could. We didn't have tradies and things that we knew at that point. But the reason for doing it in Mackay was it's close to work.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you know to buy that property?
We actually we went to a boot camp, and then as soon as we got home, we started just researching on all different places. And literally it was 2 weeks after the boot camp, we're like, okay, this is it, let's go. I'm gonna look, and I think this may be the third or fourth house we looked at, and it just sort of makes sense at that stage because we were still new. So we're like just done our visa and say, hey, this is what it looks like. So we went from there, but because it was a brand new area, it was just heaps of phone calls and just phone calls after phone calls just to get the right people to come. Tava is a really good judge in character too. So even though heaps of people come and like talk to us there, we only work with people that sort of we felt comfortable with, safe with. So that hasn't let us down since. So
yeah, nice. So what did you spend on that one roughly, and what did you and how long did that take you to?
So we were really finished in 6 months. We left to go a bit longer because it was a PPR.
Yep.
And we spent about 65 on it.
Yep.
And I think the uplift ended up being about 80,000 for that one.
Yeah, cool. And so after you've done that one, you've obviously had a nice little win. Is your game plan at this point just to do one at a time and just move into them? Is that, where'd you go from there?
Yeah, so at the end of that one, we decided this will be something we can do. We actually went and bought a tool trailer, and we did have an old work ute, and we put the 2 toolboxes on it and filled it up with all the tools we'd accumulated, and then went to the next one. So the next one was also in Mackay.
yeah, so at that stage we were doing another one, but then we were also looking at getting others because we had a good team base there after that first one. So we were trying to replicate it a little bit faster. So I can't remember, did we end up doing 3 there?
3.
3 in Mackay. So So yeah.
Yeah, so you got the loan for all 3 of those, or are you starting to do these with partners, or how are you?
No, so they were just from our serviceability from
Yep.
work.
Yep.
Yeah. But we did transition at some point from casual into being full-time work. So we had the consistency of a 7 on, 7 off. So we'd go to work and then come home on our 7 days and renovate on the 7 days off.
It wasn't really 7 days off then, was it?
No.
Yeah, when you're grinding at the beginning. So
Uh,
no, that's awesome. So you're having those 7 days on, 7 days off. You're renovating. Those 3, were they happening simultaneously, or did you have them
One at a time.
one at a time?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, interesting.
Now, were each of these your primary place of residence? Is that what you were doing, or were you having to pay tax on that?
yeah.
You go.
The first one was a PPI. The other ones were just like a normal investment. Investment to flip.
So from how instead of going into great detail on the second and third one, how much did you make off the second and third one? Were those still profitable?
The second one was about 50.
Yeah.
And the third one, we actually didn't get to it till later. So we ended up renting it and we came back to Bundaberg and did a big reno in Bundaberg. And then we managed it from Bundy later on.
And it's just you two the whole time, like managing this. No other builders. You're just subcontracting all the other trades. So no projects, site supervisor. It's just you guys.
Yeah, for these ones, because they were very cosmetic. So yeah.
How do you know how do you know what to spend the money on? Like, I know a lot of the time people say your paint and your carpet are some of your big ticket items for bang for buck. Do you have any kind of tips in those early days or mistakes that you wouldn't do again in those first kind of 3 or 4 that you took into the rest of your reno flip journey?
So our main thing was trying to keep everything neutral that suit more than just a small group of people. So we went with like a neutral wall color. And even our fixtures and fittings and fixtures, a lot of people said, "Hey, do you want to go black?" And we're like, "No, we just want to make sure it suits everybody." But you can make it pretty the house pretty neutral, but using your fixtures and fittings, and then also your staging, stuff. It brings that sort of brightness into the property to actually make it look nice. And some people, just can't see where tables and the chairs, stuff, is going to fit. So having that staging in definitely helps especially in a slower market, because at that stage the market wasn't that hot. So we pretty much staged everything that we did.
And for someone that's just starting out, right, knowing what you know now, and say, rewind 5 years ago, what are some of the things that you would recommend to people now that are just getting into it in regards to, how to manage trades, how to manage budget blowouts, how to manage the emotion of going, no, let's go black and let's upgrade this and let's upgrade that, because it's very easy to overcapitalize when you start thinking with emotion. What are some of the things that you would tell people, like if you were to say, here's my 5 tips or whatever it would be when you're first starting out, to make sure that you can actually make money out of a rental flip?
I think we've done renos in a lot of different locations, and something for me would be knowing what the market in each area wants, because it's very different, between one town to another, and the level that you have to spend. If you don't have to put stone, don't put stone. But you only get that experience from going out to the open home, seeing what's selling, talking to the agents. That's probably something we learnt along the way. And trying to stay in the market where there's a lot of buyers. So further down our journey, we did a couple in the higher end price, and that brought on more risk. Whereas if you're sitting, where there's a lot of buyers, there's a lot more competition, they sell quicker.
So basically, again, I talk about this a lot, doing the market research and knowing exactly who your end user is. Because for you guys, it sounds like you knew exactly who that was, right? And they weren't worried about black fixtures or fancy fans or whatever that would be. They just wanted to get, obviously, in the market. Were they first time home buyers, or were they families upgrading their older home that they just wanted something a little bit newer, fresh?
I mean, it was a mixture of people. There was a few first home buyers. There was some downsizers, but yeah, definitely just a mixture of people. I actually don't think none of our house went to investors. I don't think, except for the recent sale. Yeah, but they were just people that's just wanting a nice, clean home to live in.
To live in.
Yeah.
So after those first 3 or 4 properties, you mentioned 80 grand, 50 grand, 40 grand, these types of things. Were you just reinvesting those profits all straight back into the next one? Or were you living off some of that money, or you were earning enough from your full-time job? What were you doing with that excess equity as you're selling these properties?
We reinvested everything, and still today we're still reinvesting everything. So yeah, we take a small wage out for myself and reinvest the rest.
It's that compound growth, compound interest at its finest.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so you've got those 4 or 5 properties that you've done now. What are you thinking at this point? Obviously, you've got a few runs on the board, and you know that it's working. Where do you go through from there?
So we thought at that point, we had a few rentals that we had accumulated, and the interest rate being so low, we were going pretty well with our cash flow off those rentals. So we decided to quit work at that stage. So that was a pretty scary moment when you're both on a good wage, and then just to let that go. So we borrowed as much as we could, bought as much property as we could, and then quit. So that kind of forced us into okay, now you've got to.
If you don't mind me asking, because there's a lot of people that will be at a position that they'll be in a comfy job, right, wage-wise, and there's a lot of unknowns when quitting your job. And I want people to realize what some people go through, right? So if you don't mind me asking, when you guys quit your jobs, how much were you earning wages-wise at that time when you were quitting your job?
So we're on 300,000 between us.
So 150 grand each, give or take. So $300,000, which is pretty good income for, right, 2 single people. What were you then earning once you quit those jobs?
Nothing straight away.
Nothing. It was all gone. Like we just had to make it work, and that was the main thing. We took this big step, and then we're like, whatever we do, we are just gonna make it work. And we just went out, because after we stopped working, obviously our serviceability went from good serviceability to absolutely zero. So from there, we done a lot of JVs. Well, they were all joint ventures and money partners, because we only just got our serviceability back last year. So yeah, it was a few years there was just zero serviceability.
How did you overcome that mindset? Because like I said before, this is where a lot of people are stuck, right? Most people will not leave right, $150,000 a year job, right? Did you guys have kids, or do you have kids at that time? No. So obviously that's one thing that, you're single, no kids, it's just you guys. You could be selfish, you could go without. But what else did you have to go through? Because I think that would be hard for anybody to go, here I am earning 300 grand a year as combined income, plus doing this on the side, earning half decent income. I'll just continue doing that rather than do this full time. Like, how did you actually take the plunge? Like, is it something that took time? Was it one morning, you guys just talked to each other and said, that's it, we're doing this? How did it actually happen?
So mining is great. It's just a lot of time away from family and friends and stuff. So we, at the stage there, in some of the work, I could say could be a little bit unsafe, or it just wasn't as safe as just being at home doing our own thing. So I think by just being away, that was 5 years in mining. So and plus it was our goal to in 5 years in mining we were going to get out, and I think we stopped mining just before the 5 years. We said we were going to do it, so we took that plunge.
A lot of people do end up comfortable out there, like you say, and they're there for 10 or 20 years. But that wasn't our plan at the start, and we stuck to it. But I think another thing we've done, and not having kids has made it easier, has been keeping our living expenses really low. So in 2017, when we first went out there, we rented our house. We haven't really lived in a house since then. So that whole time we haven't been having to pay rent or anything. We've lived in the dongas out at work and then camped in our days off. And then once we came back home, lived in the parents, were operating our business out of a room in their house. And then now we've just bought a boat and we live on the boat.
That's awesome.
Honestly, like I absolutely love these stories. Because it goes, everyone has goals, right? Most people have goals. Some people don't have goals. But majority of people listening to this will not do what you guys have done because of the mindset. Like there needs to be like a deeper why of like when I say, what are you willing to go without? I'm kind of like, all right, you know, you're not going to go traveling this year, right? You're not going to go and you got to, you know, restrict your Uber Eats habits, and you're not going to buy new clothes, and you're going to save a bit of money. Like, I'm not thinking to the extreme of living in dongas and, you know, living in tents and literally now living on a houseboat, I'm assuming, right? Like, where does that come from? Like, how were you guys raised in very humble families, blue collar, and yeah, like where does that actually come from?
So my family growing up, like we had stuff, but we definitely wasn't wealthy. And I think from there, mum and dad used to have a farm, and you know, the farm didn't go well.
Yeah. So I guess at a young age, we had to take on responsibility and we just had to make it work.
Wow. Like, and I think this is why I've asked the question, because it comes from somewhere. Because majority of people will not do what you do. And I think the pain that obviously you guys are still feeling from that is really the driving force behind this. And this is the thing. This isn't just about getting rich to buy, you know, Lamborghinis and go on European holidays and look the part. Like, this is literally changing people's lives and changing your family's lives. And I appreciate how vulnerable you guys are, because my job is as a hosting this is to try and ask the questions and dig deep to find out the why. So when people are listening to this, right, they can dig deep into their own heart and ask the questions on what are they willing to actually go without, and what's the reason why you're doing what you're doing, because there's always a deeper purpose. And I thank you for that.
Yeah, it's that delayed gratification, isn't it? Like a lot of people aren't prepared to eat the crap for a while and live in a place that they want to do. They want everyone to have that nice car and the nice house and all the rest. And yeah, hats off to you guys for actually, putting those things to a side and say, yeah, we still want those things. They're still, you know, on the board, but yeah, you can fast track so much quicker what you're trying to achieve if you're willing to go without for a small period of time. And like Eric said, it's just actually having the plan of actually working out, okay, if we do X, Y, Z for a while and mapping it out. But most people, we're just so busy, and all the time we're too busy surviving and just doing our bits and pieces. We don't actually sit there and think and plan those things out. So I think that's awesome that you guys have got to that period. And you mentioned that you said you obviously quit the job, but then you've backed yourself in to do joint ventures. Obviously, the education piece of seeing other people, I'm assuming, doing joint ventures and knowing that serviceability. We talk about private money and bits and pieces all the time, and obviously joint ventures is another way of using someone else's serviceability and splitting that. So can you run us through that transition from using your own serviceability to then swapping over into using other people's? Like, how did you find those investors? How did you pitch those deals together? And because I know for me it was terrifying the first time I did that first joint venture and not wanting to lose someone else's money, right? So can you run us through that?
No, so definitely is a scary thought to use someone else's money. So the first one we did joint venture was actually with my brother. Um, he's done a few with us now, and I'm even so that first one, because it was with my brother, maybe it was a little bit easier. So we asked him. I'm an agent in Bundy. Sorry, in Brisbane. So so he actually bought us that first JV deal, and it was I mean, it was nice of him to bring it to us. I mean, and we'd done it together, and it only took I think
3 weeks.
three weeks, and we were in, I mean, out and back on market. So I mean, was cool to be able to see that you don't have to have serviceability to do stuff, and then from there it just grew. Not only doing with family now, we're doing with other people too. So
And just the education of realizing you don't have to be the one on title. You don't have to purchase the property. The seller JVs were the first few, I think. The owner of the property, they own it. We come in, do the work, and then split the profit afterwards.
So do you guys, so to get this right, you approach an owner of a property, right, in an area that you think there's going to be uplift doing a reno. You approach them. How do you approach them? So are you knocking on doors? Are you sending letters? Are you sending text messages?
It's all a combination. So one of them was actually a friend that we met at the mines, and he had half renoed his house, but in the same situation where he's working away, doesn't have the time to do it. And we'd just quit. And we said, well, we're doing it now. Do you want us to, we could work together. We'll finish your house, because he needed to sell it for family reasons. But we'll finish your house. We came up with a deal. I think we got 20 grand out of it, and we'd spent maybe 8 weeks. And that was our first seller JV.
Yeah, that's incredible. I actually haven't heard anyone that I know have done that before. So basically, what type of agreement do you have to have in place for the people that are now going, you know what, I've got skills, right? I don't have money, but I've got skills. I know how to get on the tools. I know how to renovate. I've got some contacts. What type of agreements did you guys have in place with these people to make sure that you're not going to do the work, right? They're going to sell the property, and then they run off to Mexico, and you're left with nothing.
Yeah, so we just use a joint venture agreement. And in those situations, we would put a caveat over the property to secure our interest, especially if we were putting our own money in.
Yeah. And what is a caveat over a property for those that don't know?
It's something that gets put on the title. So they would have to notify us if they were going to sell.
Yeah. So they can't sell the property or anything before you guys approve of that.
And just for people playing at home, I know some people have done really well in this space, and especially if you can team up with some agents that, where you've got people that are going to sell it at the low end of the market, say 300,000, for example, or 500,000. And then, that's what it's worth. But then someone like yourself comes in and say, hey, we'll spend 100, 150 grand, but it's worth, say, 800 or 750 at the back end of it. And you get your raw costs back, and then you split the upside. That's not a bad deal for someone that was going to sell it at the bottom end anyways. And, you back yourselves in as the educated investor renovator, and then share the upside with a vendor. Like, it's a lot of people will take that deal, especially people that are in a tough spots. Like I've done it where I've seen people getting repossessed. It was like 20 of them. I went and knocked on all their doors and said, look, I know what's happening. I'm here to offer you guys a solution. If we can agree on a value, let's share in the upside. I'm willing to pay for it all. And and so there's a lot of people that can do really, really well. So did you have any agents bring you any deals in that space as well, or was they all?
Yeah, so our last one was last year. That was brought to us by a buyer's agent that we've been working for like 2.5 years with. And then we were actually at a event, and then she like sent it to me. I'm like, okay. Well, we were actually in Brisbane, and the last one was actually at Glasshouse Mountain, and then she sent it to me, and I'm like, this actually looks really good. So we actually stopped there on the way home back to Bundy, and then we're like, well, this is going to work. So it was, a lot of backwards and forwards with sort of the seller, but it eventually became a really good profitable deal for us and the seller, because I think we end up having an extra like 2 you or the number girls.
Yeah. Well, we ended up with about 90,000 and the seller got an extra 150 than what they would get.
Yeah.
So
And that was in a matter of a few weeks. So we actually took the whole team from Bundy to Glasshouse, and it was just a fun time.
we actually all camped, even the tradies.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
How are you guys, when you're approaching these sellers, how are you agreeing to the initial value of the property? So obviously if there's profit, right? And you say the property is worth 500, but the vendor's like, no, it's 600. Are you guys literally going out and getting a valuation? Or are you getting 3 valuations and it's the average of the 3? Well, how deep do you guys go into setting that benchmark for that initial price to know anything $1 above that, the split's going to be X?
Yeah. So I guess every deal is different. That one in particular, we just got some appraisals of where it sat. The seller in this situation needed to get out of that property pretty urgently. So they had some arrears that we paid for as well to help them. So we were coming in, but we were also solving their problem,
Yeah.
you know.
That's what it's all about, right? Solving
Yeah.
problems. The bigger the problems you solve, the bigger the payday you're going to get. Now, how would you recommend others listening to this right now that might not have a massive network or might not have, a person at work that says, actually, I own a home here, or like you guys have had? How would you recommend them finding these types of deals where they can approach people that are struggling or selling, or like what you said, Carson, that that they're getting repossessed? Where are you guys finding this information, and how are you approaching them, and what would you recommend for viewers that would be in the same position you are in, going, I didn't even think of this, I didn't even know that was a thing?
Yeah. So what we try to tell people is try to get educated and get yourself amongst people that is in the industry or doing a similar thing, and getting to know your agents and stuff like that. And also, we had to spend some of our own money to get programs like Stash and RP data, stuff like that, to be able to pinpoint down properties too. So it's just going out there and doing a good amount of research and getting educated is probably the biggest thing, because there's a lot of factors that I guess affect every single market. So
Having a clear strategy
that's good.
would be definitely one of the biggest things, because if you don't know what exactly you're looking for, then you're just looking at a whole lot of random things.
That was one of my next questions, right? Like,
It's that time of year again at Unemployable, where we're opening up our Unemployable Business Coaching Program. It's over a 12-month period, and with that, you get private one-on-one coaching, group coaching, as well as private and live events throughout the year. You could get private coaching with me, and not only me, but our panel of experts that we have put together. These panel of experts have been in our network and are the exact people that we use in our business successes. People from branding, sales, marketing, our lawyers, our accountants, everyone that has helped build our businesses, you have access to. If this sounds of interest, go to www.unemployable.com.au/coaching and register your interest to see if it's a fit for you and us. Hope to see you there.
what are your non-negotiables, right? When you're actually choosing a flip or choosing a property to actually invest in, right? Is it the price? Is it the location? Is it the proximity to schools and shops? Like, are there some non-negotiables? Because I really want to dig into the people that are watching this that were in your exact same position, right? They're literally sleeping in a van, right? Or, they're renting a house and they're struggling and they want to get ahead, right? So what are some pointers that you can give them that they can be looking for that has the success that you guys have had? Because not many people can do 20 rental flips and now doing this full time and have the success like you guys have. You guys obviously have there's a recipe for this, right? Not just because you guys are amazing people and probably deserve all of it, but there's a recipe, right? So what are some of those non-negotiables that you guys look at, if there are any?
For the renos, not really. We didn't really specifically avoid certain things, and because we did them in certain locations, it was all different locations. It was always different. But really figuring out how to structure a deal would be, if we didn't get out and learn that there's other ways to do stuff and then do it, we would never know. So sometimes just the leap of faith of get outside your comfort zone. What are other people doing? How are they doing it? That really was a big thing, because if we didn't figure that out, we wouldn't have done the first one.
That's interesting, because you got Carson, he thinks very similar, and so do I, right? Like the art of a deal and how to structure a deal. But not only that, it is, thinking outside the box. Like, not once have I ever thought of approaching someone that's got a property that I can go and pay for the renovation and then split the profits. I've never thought of that. I've never even heard of it, to be honest with you, until now. And I think we all have stories. And one of the biggest stories that people have is, I've got no money, right? Carson had no money. You guys had no money, and you guys are still doing this. Like, you're doing this full time. 5 years ago, you guys probably started at a very similar time, really, because I think you've been about 5 years of doing this full time as well.
Yeah.
And here we are sitting at this table, with people that are now, doing amazing things and making some real differences in their lives, and making, good money and doing what they really want. Now, you mentioned strategy before, the path, goals. What did you guys actually do? Like, what is your strategy, right? Like, what's your end game? Because I think this is where a lot of people get confused too, is like, they're like, I just need to make $1 million, or I need to replace my income. And until I replace my income, I'm not going to do it, right? I think a lot of people, even me at times, right? Like, I just do things sometimes, right? Without having that strategy of going, here's my roadmap. I'm going to go from here to there to there. Sometimes I'm like, all of a sudden, oh, actually, that seems like a good deal. Hey, you're a good guy. Okay, let's do a deal. Right. And then it comes. Do you guys have a specific strategy that's like, okay, we want to do 20 flips. We're going to want to earn $1 million, and then we're going to go on to the next thing and do subdivisions now, or go do builds, then subdivisions, and then what does that look like? Is there one, or are you guys just kind of chopping and changing what you're doing?
So it's funny, because at the start of the journey, you've got an idea of what you're going to do, but it doesn't really, play out exactly how you think. We did want to do renos, so we went and did the renos, and we got to a point where, okay, we know how to do renos now. What are we going to do next? But we had to stop and plan. What does that look like? What sort of deals do we want to do? Where do we go from here? And there was a point after a lot of the renos where we sat down and said, what do you want to do? And Thanh had seen Carson and wanted to do subdivisions, and I'd seen a bit on commercial. So we decided, well, why don't we just do what we're wanting to do? So then it changed to Thanh looking for subdivisions, I looked for commercial, and we kind of split that up. So my goal was to replace our income with cash flow, and Thanh's goal was to create the chunks of money to pay down the debt.
That's awesome, because I know initially you said your game plan was to buy and hold, and then you got educated and started making these chunks of cash. So now you've kind of leveled up the same game plan, really, but you got these, now you got the chunks of cash, and then you got the hold with the commercial. But then you know, reno flips was such an awesome way to get started in this game, learning how to buy a property, seeing the value, opportunity, and then, you know, moving forward. And then if you can get those properties that you want to hold, then that's your cash flow, because ultimately that's the goal. Because we're doing the same thing at the moment, where we've just been doing a lot of deals, but the end game is cash flow and positive, you know, cash flow, positive income, you know, ideally to service our lifestyle. So the subdivision side of things, I know we caught up on one of our, you guys drove down, and hats off, you know, I mean, I put out a thing saying, hey, if anyone wants to come on our site and have a look, and you guys drove all the way from Bundy to come down and have a look at our subdivision, because you're eager to learn. You wanted to get into it. So once again, a lot of people just aren't willing to put in the work to do those kind of things. So
they don't know the deeper purpose. That's why.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. People are sitting there thinking about just money. I'm doing it for the money. I'm doing it for the money. Like, I don't think it was about the money for you guys, right? And once there's a deeper purpose on the reason why you do something, I think things become very, very clear. And I want to talk to everyone that's listening, and I want you guys to listen up right now. When was the last time you took a pen to paper and actually wrote down what you actually want in life? What is your strategy? What is your goals? What is the driving factor, right, that drives you every day? Why do you go and, sit in traffic for 2-3 hours a day and come home and not make a different decision like these amazing people have done, right? And that's where I think, like you said before, we're all too busy and things, right? And that's a good excuse, right? Yes, we are all busy, right? But we're not busy enough that we can go and take pen to paper with your partner or your business partner and actually write down the reason why you're doing what you're doing. Like, I've got my daughter here today. She's on school holidays. She's sitting in the studio. There's a reason why she is here. I want her to see this. I want her to listen. It's amazing that you guys were so vulnerable today, and for her to see that, right? Because there's deeper purposes in why we do what we do. And I think in life, we're so accustomed to chasing the dollar, to buy the new car, to buy the bigger house, to buy the flashy things. And we forget the real reason why we're doing it all. Because when we get those things, it makes you happy for 5 minutes. And then it's the same thing over and over again, right? And yeah, I one thing, if anyone that's listening here can take out of this, and there's been so many nuggets already, is to take pen to paper with your business partner, with your loved one, whoever that may be, and create a plan, right, of where you want to go. Like we talk about reverse feasibilities. Do a reverse feasibility on your life. What do you want your life to look like? How much is that going to cost? Work backwards. And what do you need to do to get there? And I think that's one thing that I need to keep reminding myself, because I take lots of nuggets out of these podcasts, is to keep doing that. Because at times, even I feel that there's so much opportunity and inflow of things that if you have to say no to certain things, and you'll say no to them when you're very, very, very clear on what your path and what your non-negotiables really are.
No, that's awesome. So your subdivisions. So you've obviously keen to learn that. So how did you transition? I know you found like a 6-lotter initially, was it? Can you take us through that journey? How you found it, what you bought it for? That some of the learnings along the way.
Yeah, so the first subdivision was 6-lotter. It's rural res.
Right up Carson's alley.
Right up Carson Alley, yes.
He's jealous. I can see it on his face already. How didn't I buy that one?
It's beyond.
And that was a off-market deal, and it was a letter drop. We've letter dropped it a few times, but they called back. The family situation has changed a lot within that period while we were talking to, or just after we talked to them. And yeah, they were just wanting to move on, and we were able to help them move on, and we still keep in contact now. So that subdivision, they used to own all of the land around their existing land now. So
whereabouts was this?
So this is in Bundy in Oakwood.
Okay.
So they used to own all of the land. I'm including the what do you call it?
School.
The school, like
Wow.
part of the school they used to own. So they've been there for a very long time. And this is their last sort of property left. And yeah, so what we gave them was I guess they wanted to leave a little bit of legacy behind, because this is their last lot. So we ended up doing a road name change, and it is now Lehman's Road when the construction is done. Where at the moment where the road has just got boxed out this week, and yeah, proof
Is that their name?
Lehman's, yeah. So yeah. So that's a project that's been going on for a few years now. It's been a struggle. At one stage there, I actually called up Carson. I was like, hey, we're actually having dramas with a few different things with sort of the Fiso, and also, because that first one, it was taking a lot longer. And at one stage there, we had to make a decision if we were going to go ahead or if we were going to sell Amadon. But we decided to actually go along and finish the whole thing, because we already spent 15 months trying to do all of this learning, and if we were gonna stop and give up and sell Amadon, we wouldn't have got the learning that we got to this day now. There's been a lot of things with council, neighbours, and etc. But it's been a journey that I would redo in a heartbeat, because it gave us so much valuable lessons.
Yeah, it's good. I think sometimes it's tempting to exit at that DA level, and sometimes it's valid, and we've done it lots of times. So you just look at the fees and go, someone's going to come in and pay too much for it. But if you can go through that process, like you can go to get all the education in the world. They can tell you what an operational works is, and then this is how you go get your construction, civil construction guys, and then go through, and then your plan ceiling, and then your titles. That sounds great. They won't actually click in your head until you've actually run through that process and done, okay, so the engineer does that, and okay, then hands over to the conveyancer, and then off to the solicitor. So that's awesome that you guys have gone through it, and it sounds like you're going to hopefully do really well out of that. So, because what you'll take into the next one, it gives you confidence to actually then go do the next one and the next one once you've gone through that process. So that's awesome.
And you say it very casually, like we were letterbox dropping. Are you literally just driving house to house, putting a letter in their mailbox?
No, we pretty much use a very similar method to Carson. Every single letter we drop, because it's expensive, we make sure that is the right area, the right property. It does just every single property is what's the word? It's hand picked. So we do up the letter, and then we sometimes walk the street, drop it, and then other time we post it. So
Do you add the tea bag like
We
Carson
do.
as well?
We do.
Well done.
Cool, isn't it?
And what's exactly? Well, you don't have to say exactly. You don't want to give away all your secret recipe, but like, what are some of the things that you actually say in this letter? Like when you're just approaching, like, hey, this is who we are. This is what we've done. If you're in, like, how do you? What are some of the things in there? How do you actually write a letter like that? How do you approach these people?
That's something that has evolved over time as well. So the first letters we sent out were just, we've been looking at your area. We'd love to buy a property in this area. Give us a call, because we didn't have that experience to say we are developers. We want to buy it. But now the areas that we have got the properties in, we've changed the letter up to, we've done this one down the street. We could do similar to yours. Give us a call if you're interested. So yeah, it's evolved over time.
But in the letter as well, it always says that we're working with you one-on-one, and we're flexible with sort of the way that the whole agreement comes together. So everything is negotiable and everything is workable. So we go in there with an open mind, and that's what the letter pretty much says too. That we're here, and we can work with you to make this a win-win outcome for everyone. So
Yeah, because that's one of the things when you have landowners that are sitting there and they know they're sitting on a bit of land they could do something with, but they're not really interested, and they get smashed by agents all the time, letterbox drops, right, like we all do. It's probably quite refreshing to get a letter from a non-agent just saying, hey, this is who we are, genuine. It's funny, I remember my sister and brother-in-law was selling their house, and it was kind of peak COVID time. This is back in Canada. And the market was pumping that much that people, when they were basically, that wasn't an auction or anything, it was a campaign, standard private treaty, and they were getting letters from people that want to buy the property, right? And the letters would have, and I remember seeing them, a photo of them and their kids and their family and the dog. This is who we are. This is how old we are. We're moving from here. We want to be in this neighborhood because of this. If you would please accept us to be the buyers of this property, we appreciate everything that you've done and the renovations that they've done, and we will treat it like our own moving forward. I promise you that. These are the types of things. And that one person that did that is the one that bought the property, right? They stuck out, right? They got a bit emotional about it, going, well, like, wow, this is unbelievable, right? And majority of people won't do that. That's the thing, right? I will tell people, take pen to paper today, right? Do it this weekend. Spend some time. Majority of the listeners that are listening right now won't do it. Majority of the people won't let her drop, right? And that is the difference. We can sit here and educate week after week after week. Unemployable property, Shannon and Carson, training week after week after week. You can have all the learnings, listen to all the pods, read all the books. But one thing you guys are doing over and over and over again is actually taking action. And that is the difference. And taking the action, and I'm sure still to this day, no matter what deal you do, right? Once you sign the paperwork or whatever it is, there's still that little anxious feeling of, I hope this works, right? Nothing is guaranteed. Who knows what can happen? We're buying a property. I'm selling it. We're settling in a couple of weeks, and I've opened my phone. I'm like, oh, the U.S. just bombed Iran. Here we go. What you know, like, and anyone that's in any type of business or investing will have in the back of their mind going, what does this mean? Is this World War III? Oh my God. We all get these feelings, but the key is there's noise. Don't worry about it. Keep taking action. Mark, who's on our podcast, on our Friday pod, he's an amazing guy, and he does trading. He trades now, and he used to be ex-property. And he's like, I'm at a point in my life now where I invest and then I investigate, right? Again, I invest a small amount, investigate. If it's worth going, I will go again. It's the same thing with what you guys are doing with land and options. I'm willing to put a small deposit down, and at times it might be a non-refundable deposit, right? I'm willing to invest, to then investigate and go, you know what? I'll lose that 10 grand. That's fine. I'll make it up on the next one. Or good thing I paid that 10 grand because I'm just about to make millions of dollars. Like Shannon and Carson are talking about these deals like, yeah, we're doing this on 250 lots and it's 12 million and 6 million. And like it's nothing now, right? Like 5 years ago, this guy was cleaning carpets. Like this is why I love having people like you guys on, because it's not just I'm rich and I do this and I do that. And it's all good having these types of people on from time to time, right? But the real, raw, authentic people like yourselves that are doing this and making a difference for you guys and your family's life is these are my favorite types of podcasts, because it's the action that you're taking that is the key. And this is what another thing I want people to take out of this podcast is start taking action, right? I say one thing. I say you can play in the game or you could sit on the sidelines, right? But decide what you want, right? You're either in or you're in the way. Get in, right? Do something, right? Anyways.
You mentioned something that was kind of brushed over a little bit, but about actually naming that street after, and that's actually sitting down, taking the time with the vendor and finding out what is a need. We're doing the exact same thing in a state that we're doing now. We're naming it Oaky Farm because it was named after the thing. We said that to them up front to say would love to. We asked for permission because especially people that have been around for generations. That's like I said, that means a lot to them. So I think going into that negotiation, obviously like you guys do, is finding out what the vendor wants, and then you already know what you want. You know what you want to buy it for, and then typically if you can give them what they want, then you can get what you want, because there's a million different ways to structure a deal. And I think that's why the education piece is so important, because it gives you tools for the tool belt. So to pull out the option, the delayed settlement, you need to get owner's consent so you can get the approval done before you settle on it. Like if you don't know you've even got those tools, it's hard to sit at the negotiation table because all you think is, I don't have the serviceability for this property. How the heck are we going to do it? So that's why the education piece is so important. But at the same time, you still got to get out there and make it happen. So you're in construction on that one at the moment. You're just boxing out the road. How are we going? Are you selling the blocks already, or are you waiting till you're a bit further down the line? What's the game plan?
So 4 out of 5 lots are sold. And then there is also a house that we rented up to. So we're going to sell the house after construction is done. So there's only the one lot left. And it's in a good location, only eight or so minutes to town. So I'm sure I'm just going to go soon. So yeah, nice.
We decided, being the first subdivision, to pre-sell the lots just to reduce the risk a bit. So
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And how did you do that? Just through agents?
through
Oh,
agents,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, nice. And are they 1 acre blocks, or how big are the blocks?
1 acre.
Yeah, there's some that's 1 acre and some is a little bit larger. 5,000 something square meters lot there. So yeah, so that one and the next subdivision was bought pretty close together. The one that was bought second is actually finished construction. And we've pre-sold the whole lot now. So that's that. So each of one of our deal, we've had like a really good one, and then a one that has dramas, but that's just part of the whole game, So
Yeah.
But it's the ones that had the issues where we've learnt the most.
That's the
We've
thing.
got all of those things for next time. We know exactly what not to do.
Yeah.
And all those things that next time, the process is quicker. The second subdivision overtook the first one because, of the holdups. But second time around, it's so much easier.
What are some of those not to do's? Because a lot of people will sit there and have, analysis paralysis, right? And they have the fear of actually pulling the trigger and taking the action. So what are some of those not to do's that you've learned that other people listening to this can take on board?
So one thing that we've learnt through the renos as well is talking to the neighbours at the start. So that particular site has some stormwater issues, and there were some very passionate neighbours about that one. But also just how long things should take, and getting to know council and the sort of areas that they want the development and what sort of solutions they want to the problems. Without starting it, we wouldn't have known that. But next time we know that suburb, we know exactly what they want, where they want it.
yeah, even though there was pre-lodgement stuff done, I feel like it could have been better that put more, I guess, bring the engineer along to these pre-lodgement stuff, because the town planners talks together, they don't get down to the near the nitty-gritty stuff, So that is definitely a learning from us, because stormwater, I guess, is an issue everywhere for every project. So that's definitely is one of the biggest learning.
That's a huge tip. Like just subdivisions, you need to be taking your engineer into that room and talk, because they talk a different language to even the planners. The planners will understand in principle a bit about everything, but to get down in the nitty gritty, especially those stormwater solutions, they can kill your deal very quickly. So did you get some engineering advice up front, as well as the planning advice, before you kind of went unconditional? Or
Yeah. So we did get advice up front. But then there was some information that was sort of left out via council, and it sort of I guess it came out after the fact, when after the
DA.
after the operational, actually we put the operational works in, and then we're like, hey, was this taking so long? So they had issue, but they haven't expressed the issue until ages after, and then they like, hey, can we have a meeting? I was like, oh yeah, I would love to have a meeting and see what's going on here, but they had issue that they, I guess, didn't want to say at the time or something, and that is one of the biggest learning, is to go there and make sure they express their concern from the start.
And that's why we need better margins in this level of development. Like reno flips, you can take your 10%, you're in and out nice and quick. It's less risk. Yes, you can still have rotting underneath the the shower and all the rest, and there'll be some surprises potentially if your building in Perth isn't 100%. But there's these, you can do all the homework in the world, and there's still going to be things that you can get caught with. You can do your core holes for your geotech, and you missed a big chunk of rock where you're going to be running your sewer through, and all of a sudden you're blasting it out. So you need to have more fat in the deal. You need to have bigger contingencies, and that's why we chase bigger margins and you have fat contingencies. So then hopefully you can have a lot of wins out the back end if you've done the numbers right. So no, that's good. So how did you fund those couple though? Because you're doing some joint ventures. Were those joint ventures, or are you using private money, or how you got serviceability?
So that was a mixture. So we put in some of the costs up front, and then we actually got 2 money partners to fund some of the costs, the deposit and stuff like that. And then we actually got a private lender in for the construction and for the first mortgage of the property. So yeah, it was a mixture.
That was our first time using private lending, and it came out of talking to you, Carson, and you said the same thing. We just had to bite the bullet and give it a go, because otherwise we were never going to know what it was like. So
Carson is pushing us all of us to private lending.
Just
And we're signing lots of personal guarantees and stuff. So if anything goes wrong, right, we go.
No, you got to be careful with private money. Just FYI.
Yeah.
But no, I think in your instance, you had the project was viable, and it makes sense, right? Because like I say, that they're a cheap joint venture party, and so much. Like I know I got hung up on the interest rate so much early days. I'm not paying 13%, I can pay 9%, but then I'm giving 50% away to a joint venture party. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So, so it sounds like you're getting through those ones, and then along the journey, is there anything else you want to share on those 2 subdivisions at all?
Well, the one that is just about to get plan sealed, that one was also another off-market ladder drop, and those guys that we met, they were old timers, business, real estate. They're not a couple, they're business partner. So now that we bought it, they are just the most amazing people to sit down and chat. And like we've had so many lunch and dinner with those guys. They're just full of knowledge. So after you buy a property, stick with them, because there's so much you can learn from those people. Those sellers, they got history, and yeah.
Like I'm very big on that. Like network for me is almost everything. Having those trusted people that you can call and say, hey, I'm stuck. Can you have a look at this? What you did with Carson, right? Like, not a lot of people have that, right? And it's good to get within, in these communities and add value and let people know who you are and what you're doing. And that's what we continue to do at Unemployable, and is to build that network out and have people like you come on and talk about your stories. And it's interesting because more deals will come from that, right? And I'm assuming moving forward, you're still doing letter drops, and it's a strategy that you will continue to do.
Yeah.
That's good. I have more of a personal question, and you guys sit here and we're talking business and deals, right? And you guys are on here as business partners right now, but you guys are a married couple, and you guys are working together every day. You're living together every day. You're living in a boat together. You're living in a tent together. And there'll be a lot of people listening to this that probably need some pointers on how do you actually work hand in hand with your partner, with your wife or your husband. I know my wife and I work really well together, and at times we work not so well together. And we kind of know our lanes and what we do. What are some tips you can give having so much success, like 20 reno flips, 2 subdivisions, 2 builds? Like, I just think of all the dramas and all the scraps, that would happen in between those times, because it's easy to sit here for an hour or so having a chat about all these things. what are some tips? Like what are some rules? What are some guidelines? What are some boundaries? Do you guys have anything like that to I guess continue your working relationship and your marriage?
So one that I've recently learned from the business guide that we put the land of is don't go to bed and be unhappy with each other. So always make up before you go to bed if there is any issue, because you just don't know what's going to happen the next day. So that is a tip, and I will remember that for forever. So
I think if you want to test your marriage, do a reno. But we've had a fair bit of coaching, and not just property, but also just mindset and personal coaching. And we got taken on individually, where we just got to talk it out without being together, which was unusual because normally we would do everything together.
That's when the real stuff comes out, though, right?
Yeah.
When no one else is listening.
But we learnt to understand what the strengths were of each of us separately, and then work together that way. Rather than, I was terrified of talking to people at the start. I didn't want to pick up the phone.
And here you are on a podcast
I know.
telling your story. How good.
Yeah, so it was just playing to each other's strengths and weaknesses, but we've always just loved trying to get out of our comfort zone and, what next? What else can we do?
I love that. What do you guys actually do? So in the business realm, what does Thanh do and what does Tabitha do? Where's your lane? Because I remember you saying about half an hour ago, you can answer that. You're the numbers person. So who does what?
So at the start, because I was so shy, I thought that I wasn't the people person, but it turns out that I've just got a really good feel for people and trying to understand them and their needs. So if we go into where we meet with the seller, we'll sit down and I'll be the one to really get to the bottom of what they need and what's important to them. Tan's taken on more of a role of deal finding and the feasibilities, and finding the deals, and then we put them together. And when we get to a challenge, which we each have had our own challenging deal for the last couple of years, we've kind of come together just as a sounding board of what else can we do? Is there something I'm missing? And sorted it out together.
That's amazing. Like, I feel your guys' energy right when I first met you guys outside. And I think that's going to have a lot to your success as well. Like when I talk to you guys, I'm looking at two people that like I trust, that are like real, authentic. This is who I am. This is what we do. And I think it's amazing what you guys are doing and how you're still living, right? And I'm sure it's living on a boat is not a bad thing, but what you guys have done over the last 5 years and what you guys went without, in my opinion, is the focus, like the deals and how to do the deals and all this is great. But I think for anyone that's listening today, like I said before, I think the lesson here is get very, very clear, right? Because once you get very, very clear, it'll be amazing the decisions and the action that you will take to get what you want, to fulfill that.
Yeah, it's good. That's why I want to get these guys on, because I've got some fellow country bunkins like myself. We've got some high flyers doing, high rise and bits and pieces, but there's deals everywhere, right? Like, Bundaberg, got mates in WA doing things, even in the sticks. So there's always a deal if you've got eyes if you open it, because like I say, before you get education, you're driving past the big blocks, you're driving past the clapped out old house and go, oh, that's who'd live there? And now you look at it and go, oh, is there a deal to be had? So, no, hats off to yourself. I mean, I find it super inspiring. Like, I asked permission before, like, if you stutter, so many people would use that as a limiting thing to stop them from doing anything. And I love the fact that you're out there, not even, meeting people face to face. I had a friend of mine that had a huge stutter, and it was debilitating for him, not even wanting to go outside. So, mate, respect to yourself and to get out there, not use that as a crutch, and to get out there and do what you've done is really inspiring, mate. So that's I really appreciate you guys, well, both of you guys, for coming on and sharing, you know, part of your journey. I know this is, you know, there's so many stories that we've missed out, but it's been great to have you guys on, and yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys get up to over the next few years and see where it all lands.
I agree. I think, you know, that my daughter's here listening to this live is, out of any podcast we've done, this is probably one I'd want her to listen to. And because there's a story there, right? And I think it's very relatable to a lot of people. Not many people would drive 7 hours to come on a podcast. Especially, I know that you guys would have been frightened to come on here and probably a bit nervous because you haven't done this before. And funny enough, Shannon was in Tabitha's seat, and we were going to interview Tom today. And then we got talking to Tabitha, Shannon did off camera, and he's like, hey, I think it'd be a good idea if Tabitha takes my seat and we can interview both of them as business partners and as a couple. And then my daughter was like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. So, and here we are. So I just want to say thank you, because obviously you wouldn't have been prepared to be, psychologically prepared to be on the pod, and we kind of threw you under the bus and said, come on, and you were all for it. So thank you very much. I think this podcast was meant to be like this, and everything happens for a reason. And again, I just want to say thank you from Carson, Shannon, and I, and the Unemployable Property crew. I think this podcast is going to really hit for a lot of people, for who it's meant to be for. And take action, guys. That for me is one of the key takes, right? Take action and find out the reason why you're taking action. What is the why behind it? Map that out like these guys have. And I'd love to get you guys back on the podcast in the future to see where you are at with the subdivisions and reno flips. And obviously the reno flips are probably starting to come behind you now that you're going into subdivisions and bigger deals like that. And keep in contact. Appreciate you guys. Please like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you liked, let us know what you don't like, and we'll just keep continuing doing what we're doing over and over again and bringing these success stories on. And there's so many little nuggets in this podcast, so make sure you guys listen to it more than once. Carson,
Thanks, Evan. And if people want to get a hold of you guys or reach out to jump into one of your deals, how can they do that?
So we got a Facebook page and also our website. It is tntpropertyconsulting.com.au.
awesome. So that's on Facebook, guys, and also on the website. Now TNT, is that TANDT, or is it
It is the symbol and
symbol and?
yep.
Yeah. Okay. So T symbol and T propertyconsulting.com.au. Thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you next week.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.